session, and I think it would be very fitting. Do you think your executive committee and the convention planning committee made the right decision in getting Arden Hopkin here?
At lunchtime, I was telling people that I really miss my calling in life. I should have been a professional BSer because I can just talk along glibly about any subject that you want to say and sound like I know what I'm talking about. But really, I really have enjoyed being here with you folks today. And, you know, all of you bashful souls that wouldn't ask me any questions earlier, and here during this break, I've just been swamped with some of the most interesting questions, and to be very honest with you, I can't remember very many of the questions. So you're going to have to help me by re-asking some of those questions that you just asked me that we spent our break talking about. He wants to know about tonal range. How can you stretch yourself to go higher and, in this case, to go lower? And the exercises that I have given to you today are the groundwork that will cause that to happen. The more that you relax your vocal cords, the greater range will be available to you for high notes and for low notes. Every human being has a potential range of approximately 3 octaves. Now, most of us don't come anywhere near realizing that. But from the very highest note that we can make in our falsetto voice, down to the very lowest note that we make, is approximately 3 octaves. Of those 3 octaves, we can learn to develop approximately 2, or in some cases 2.5 of those octaves into actual singing tones. Without any voice lessons per se, but with just exercise, every person should be able to get to the point where they have approximately 1.5 octaves of available notes to sing. There is not a square dance record that I have ever heard in my life that requires more than 1.33 octaves. That's the very most. And a majority of them don't even require a full octave to be able to sing the highest and the lowest pitches. Most popular music stays within 1 octave in its range. Therefore, if you have trouble hitting those things, probably what's wrong is that you're just carrying around too much tension. You're worrying about it too much. You're trying too hard. One thing or another. But if you can get your voice to relax, get the vocal cords to relax, you will have available to you a greater range. The sensations change, and this is something I haven't talked very much about. The sensations change just a little bit between your chest voice and your so-called head voice. And that's one of the reasons why it becomes so difficult for singers to be able to move up into that upper range. It's particularly difficult for men who have low voices to begin with. It was one of the very most difficult things for me to learn how to do as a singer. When you speak or sing in your chest voice, most of you will feel a lot of vibration taking place right around your back teeth, your molars, or just where your voice turns the corner, or your throat turns the corner to go down into your throat. Feel a lot of vibration, and that begins to be somewhat like a security blanket. Not because you're afraid necessarily, but just because you're familiar with it that way. As you go higher, or as you start to sing more intensely, as in musical comedy or opera where you don't have sound systems and you have to learn how to project your voice out away from you, then the singer has to go through the process of becoming weaned of this security blanket of having the sound in and around the inside and get used to the feelings of having it very much up in the bones of the face, beside the nose and across the bridge of the nose. Let me just try an experiment with you. I'll demonstrate it for you, and I'll get you to try it, and you're going to feel just as silly as you can be. We'll go back to playing children's games, making children's sounds, pre-singing sounds. And the sound that I'm going to have you make Well, I'll have to tell a story on myself. I've always had the trouble singing the vowel E. Whenever I'd sing with what I thought was the correct production, it would come out sort of all mixed up, or sound more like an I than an E. And I went to a teacher once, and he worked and worked, and he tried to me, and instead it would come out me, and I couldn't get it to be a me no matter what I did. And what he was trying to do was to teach me how to get the sensations up here around my nose and across my face in what's called the mask of the face. I couldn't do that to save my life. We tried all different kinds of things. We went me, B, and finally he tried wee, and it worked, you know. And so I went wee, oh, and I got the feeling, you know, and I was so happy that I went wee all the way home. Well, I'm not going to do that to you, but I am going to ask you to do something just as ridiculous. I'm going to ask you to sing quack, 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 quack. Now, if that doesn't, you can tell this to your grandchildren when you get old. You went to convention and paid all this money so that you could learn how to say quack, 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 quack. The purpose of that is that as little children, they have no inhibitions about where they use their voice, and they throw their voice around and they make all kinds of silly sounds. And as sophisticated adults, we learn how to not do those sort of things. And we need to relearn how to do that. So please stand up and let's quack at each other. Starting right, I want you to become sensitized to what the vibrations in your face feel like. Start right on that pitch level and go quack, 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 quack. Some of you are doing it right. Some of you are going quack, 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 and there's no sense of quack, 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 quack. There's nothing in the nose, in other words. I should explain to you that Americans, for some reason, are deathly afraid of nasal singing. Don't ask me why. Because Americans don't sing in their nose at all. If you get what we normally call nasal singing, this is nasal singing, this is what we usually term nasal singing. Actually, what that is an absence of nasality. It's a blockage in the nose. For example,
if I pinch my nose, and you get that sound because my fingers are blocking off the sound in my nose.
And if you can do that with your back around, but your adenoids too, and get this kind of a sound, or the sound that you get when you have a cold. That it just won't go in there at all, and it's blocked off. This is what a nasal sound sounds like.
This is a nasal sound. All the sounds come up through there, as in somebody who has a cleft palate and there's no way to stop the sound.
You don't hear that happening very often. That is a nasal sound. This is the absence of nasality. And so you should not fear the feelings of vibrations that come when you think that you're singing in your nose. Now, if you'll try quack, 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 quack. All right. Okay, now you know what it feels like. You feel these vibrations going across the bridge of your nose and across the cheekbones underneath. Yes, that's correct. It does go along with this exercise. It's a funny thing, though. You know, if you do this too much, you do just fine during the summer months, but in the fall, you get this feeling like you want to fly south. If you get those feelings of vibration in across your face, that should be the replacement for this sensation of vibration in the back part of your throat. Now, you all know how to quack, quack at me. I want you to go this way for me. Quack, 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 quack. Try it. Quack, 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 quack. Here's what I heard back. Quack, 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 quack. In other words, the sound got very thick because somebody, and more than somebody, got a little nervous about going quack, 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 and felt that the only way that they were going to get up in there was to make the sound fatter. Don't do that. You get this result if you do. Quack, 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 which is entirely unattractive. If we're going to do a pure quack, we might as well do it right. Try it with me, please, again. Quack, 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 quack. That's terrific. Boy, you're good. I'm going to ask you to go up by half steps with me. This way. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. Try it. Here we are right there. Quack. Now don't do that to me. That's not the right way. Quack, 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 quack. You'll never make it. Quack, quack, quack. Right there, folks. Right where you... Extra. Read all about it. And you know why they do that? You know why those people who hawk papers do that? Because they throw it into their nose, up out of their throat. There's no pressure. They can do that all day long, and you can hear them 3 blocks away. Try it. Take the pressure off of this part of your voice. Put the pressure out here. Try it. Quack, 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 quack. 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 Can you imagine what the management of the hotel is thinking right now? As you went higher, how many felt that was easier to do? Please? How many felt that it was more difficult to do than... You have to have something to compare it to, I guess. Okay. Go back, and this time do not put it into your nose. Keep it wide open, like this. Quack, 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 so that the sounds are vibrating in your mouth and back here in the back part of your throat. Go. Now, some of you are cheating. You're doing it my way, and it's starting to sound pretty good. Now go back and put it in your noses. Go. Quack, 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 quack. Now, which of those takes more pressure? Which are harder to do? The first one takes more pressure simply because it's like a shotgun. It sends energy and it scatters it. It comes out your mouth and it goes every which direction instead of intensifying. Therefore, to get the volume that you need to turn up the amount of energy that you expend in order to get the same amount of return. By doing it the way that I'm asking you to do it, by putting it up into the mask, you have a greater chance of getting more accomplished with less effort. And the more you can do that, the longer you'll last as a singer. Okay, have a seat. There were a million other questions, and I'll be darned, and each time somebody asked one, I said, would you be sure to raise your hand? And there's one of them right there. Fine. That was a question of how to project your voice and get along on less talent and more brains. The truth of the matter is that there isn't a person to whom I've spoken today who doesn't have ample talent to be an exceedingly fine square dance caller. Talent to spare. Having nothing to do with brains, just talent to spare. Let's see if I can rephrase that one. putting the brains aside, which are in a... The projection of the voice is primarily accomplished by this little goodie right here. And that's one of the primary differences between classical singers and popular singers. Popular singers don't have to worry about projection to the same degree that classical singers do because they have electronic media that will project the voice for you. I think perhaps what you're referring to is the quality of the voice that needs to be projected. And the things that we've been working on today are aimed at that. One of the real serious problems that singers have is the perception. The way I think my voice sounds is far different than the way that you think it sounds, and vice versa. You see, I hear myself through my inner ear very much, and each one of us do. Therefore, we have a strange perception of how we sound. And it's very hard to let go of our preconceived notions of what our voice sounds like, because we've been living with it for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years that way, and it feels real strange if we do it another way. To begin to change that perception, there are two ways that you can do it. You can buy yourself a tape recorder and record yourself over and over and over and over again until you begin to get the quality that you perceive that you want. Or you can go to somebody who is somewhat of a specialist in that field and get the use of their ears. And that's one of the reasons that there are voice teachers in the world. Not because they're so smart, but because they have perceptive ears to be able to tell you what you sound like and to hear things that are going wrong in your voice and offer suggestions on how to correct them. Generally speaking, most people sing with too spread out of a tone. It's too back inside, and it's too this way, kind of like a shotgun. And all could stand to tighten down or focus down their voices just a little bit. The reason that we don't do it on of our own free will and accord is because when we do that, it begins to sound nasal or pinched or shrill. But those are perceptual problems. The voice isn't necessarily that way. It's just that we perceive it to be that way by comparison to what it used to be when it was rattling around inside of our throats. Okay, so a perception is one of the real problems, and that tight, that's the wrong word, that intense focus that puts the sound right up out on the cheekbones, on the bridge of the nose, and on the front teeth is going to do more to correct more problems with more people than any other one thing. And that can help a person who may have a certain amount of insecurity about their raw talent to gain the confidence so that the sound that goes into this little microphone is an attractive enough sound to be proud of magnifying. Other questions? I'm glad. Okay, that's a question of running out of breath. In this case, it was that there are so many words to have to say that I ran out of breath to say them. But the truth be known, I suspect that many of you have problems with running out of breath even if there aren't too many words. And let me explain, there are a couple of things that happen that can cause shortness of breath. If there are many words, as in your case, if you're very careful in learning how to say those words, you'll discover that between the words or between the syllables, you're letting a whole bunch of air go. Somewhat in the sense of an Italian who can't quite say an American a word without putting in an extra thing in there. In the same way, you let air escape in between things, and you're probably not even aware of that. A lot of air gets away, and the solution for that is to require of yourself that your vocal cords stay together at all times. For example, if I'm going to sing, "If ever I would leave you," there's a lot of little empty spots between those syllables. If I go back and I sing, "If ever I would leave you," there's no empty spots, and I use a whole lot less breath. But I don't think that that's the main problem with shortness of breath. The main problem with shortness of breath, I believe, is right here. And it has to do with tension. Someone I was talking to during the break talked about getting tight right here in the middle section. And sometimes that's caused from nerves, from fear. The muscles just get tight. You probably are not aware of it, but those same muscles on your shoulders are probably tight. Many people carry tension there, or between your shoulder blades, or in the small of your back. People normally carry tension that way. Some people I know carry tension in their arms, and you can see when they get nervous that their arms lock. The tension starts to creep in. With some people, that also happens in their middle section, in their diaphragm. And as soon as those muscles get tight, they've lost their flexibility. So therefore, it becomes somewhat like flexing all of your muscles and getting really tense and trying to thread a needle at the same time. And if you've ever tried to do that, in order to thread a needle, you've got to be real relaxed and at ease. So how do you lick that? How do you get rid of this tightness? Before I give you the answer to that, let me explain that the tightness here causes the breath that comes out of your throat to be under much greater pressure than it needs to be. The breath gets really tight and pushy. That means that the vocal cords have to be more tense in order to resist against that extra pressure. That will then cause a very tense, energized sound to come out that can wear you out very quickly. So not only does it have to do with breath, but it has to do with longevity of your vocal cords. If your breathing muscles get tight, the first thing that you should do is to treat them as if it were a muscle cramp. If you get a muscle cramp in your leg, what do you do but to stretch it out? In the same way, in your diaphragm. If the diaphragm gets rigid on you, breathe in just as deeply as you possibly can. When you think you've got in all, and breathe through your nose. Breathe in deeply through your nose. When you think you've got in all the breath that you can get in, breathe in some more. When you think you're really at the maximum and there's just no way that you can breathe in anymore, breathe in a little bit more. In other words, you take that diaphragm and you absolutely distend it as far as it can go down. Hold it there for a count of about 5 or 6, and then let it out very slowly and force through until there's absolutely no breath left. That will take the diaphragm and make it go all the way tense and all the way relaxed. After you've done that a few times, you should begin to feel some of that tension giving way. After the tension has given way, then begin to pant that way to keep the muscle loose and limber. After you've done that, to get those muscles limber, then go ha, 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 or ha, ha. And that is to relax the tension out of the vocal cords that may have crept in there in response to the tension that was there. If you can do those things, there isn't a person in this room that shouldn't be able to exhale their breath on a singing tone for 15 seconds. Stand up. We're going to time each other here now for a second. I want you to do this with me. I want you to take in a very deep breath, slowly. Breathe in through your nose only. Hold it for a second, and then breathe out on an F. Go. Five seconds. 10 seconds. 15. 20. And then there are some blowhards that can go much longer than that. There is not the longest phrase in music that I have ever heard of lasts 12 seconds. That's the longest phrase in classical music. In popular music, there is no phrase that I'm aware of that lasts longer than 8 seconds. Okay, now let's make a singing tone. Ah, on that pitch. Breathe in, hold on. Breathe in deeply. Hold it. Now sing. Everybody make that? That's 10 seconds. You had air to left over. That means that if you're running out of breath in any phrase that you're singing here, you're wasting it. You're wasting it because there's plenty of breath available to you to accomplish whatever you want to. Sometimes the changing of pitch can use some tension that will cause tightness to creep in. So now, would you do this with me? And just keep right on going until I cut you off. Taking a deep breath. Hold it. Go. Okay, that was somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds that you were at that. No problem. There should be no problem with breath. And it concerns me because people, when things don't work right, they get preoccupied with their breathing. The breathing is the wrong place to get preoccupied because the more you get self-conscious about it, the more tied up it'll get and the less it'll work for you. It needs to be, like I was saying earlier, a subconscious thing. It'll work for you if you give it a chance. Go ahead and have a seat now, and here's a question. Yeah. Hold on, please, just a second. Okay, that's a very good point. He says that isolated exercise like this doesn't create any problem. It's when you have phrase after phrase after phrase with no time to breathe. And there's a very valuable exercise that you can do. We'll do it on an F. You can remain seated if you wish. I'll demonstrate it to you first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you breathe in slowly the first time. I'm going to have you breathe out for 8 counts. Hopefully by the end of the 8th count you'll be pretty nearly out of breath. And then in 1 count I want you to take a very quick breath and begin that F exhaling all over again. I'll demonstrate. Watch what's happening down here. You see, when I was talking about breathing in the very early stages this morning, I indicated to you that you don't pull air into your lungs at all. The diaphragm, by going down, creates an imbalance in air pressure, and the air will automatically seek to adjust itself. So it's not a question of you having to go to pull the air in, because the air will go in all by itself, if you give it a half a chance. Now do this exercise with me, and I think it might solve your problem. Here we go. Breathe in. F. Breathe. Now see the next time if you can do that quietly, not asthmatically. Breathe. Breathe. Nobody's having any trouble. Darn, well, I'm just going to have to extend this out a little bit. Let's go up to 12 counts. Ready. Breathe. Breathe. You're too good. Now turn it into a singing sound. Ah, on that pitch. Go. Ah. Breathe. Ah. Breathe. Ah. Okay, each one of those phrases that we're doing right now lasts approximately 10 seconds, longer than any phrase that you're going to be called on to sing. See how much confidence you now have in yourself? Let's now go on to a few more critiques.
Yeah, we're going to start off here. Mike, if you'll line up, you'll be right after me. We're going to do one. This is Elmer Sheffield's record, so Elmer, bear with me, please.
Wasn't that fantastic? Fantastic. Yeah. Right at the very beginning, he was in one deeper part of his voice, very low registration. Wasn't so easy to hear him. Then he got going into the I'll always remember the song they were playing. Now, would you just sing that once for me without the record being played?
Just the music? I mean, the words?
Sing the melody, yeah.
4 ladies, you chain 3/4. Always remember the song they were playing.
Now, you know how that feels right now?
Yes.
See if you can do that same feeling, but there at the beginning, too.
4 ladies, you chain 3/4. Go round now. Roll away, circle up.
How much energy does that take?
None. Well, very little.
Now, the reason that John doesn't do that is because he thinks maybe he's cheating, like he's not working hard enough, like he won't be heard, so he's got to deliver extra amounts. It's wrong. That's not true. The way he was doing it just then, when he felt like he wasn't doing anything, he was actually being more efficient, getting more sound out than the first time. Put the record on, and I think you'll find that a lot easier.
Four ladies chain, 3/4 go round now. You roll away, circle up. Well, always remember the song they were playing. Let Sally Mandan weave the ring. Could I have this dance for the rest of my life? Bring your own, accommodate her all right. When we're together, it feels so right. Could I have this dance for the rest of my life?
I wish I could get some of my opera singers to come and hear him do that so they'd understand what it means to have some focus in your voice. That's a really good example of it, John. Thank you.
Mike? While Mike's getting up here, I've got to tell you, for those that missed it, I drink tab, I love apples, and I felt like a moron for being willing to do this. Mike Sikorsky from Southern California.
That's what I call the Dean Martin of CALLERLAB, right? When you're down in that lower part of your voice, you can really feel that rumbling around in your throat a lot, and it feels real good, doesn't it? Why don't you share that with us? In other words, you got a kind of a hollow sound going in there that's down the lower part, which you don't need because you got those notes so easy that if you just shared them out with us, and you do that as the notes start to get a little higher. Yippee-yi-yi! Up in there it starts to go real good, but down in there, and there's a little bit of that feeling. And the problem with that is going to be that when you get into a noisy atmosphere, nobody's going to be able to understand you because the sound becomes like a shotgun. It scatters in all directions. There's no sense of intensity to it. Now, you did it a bunch of times. Now, you have the words here. This song I used to sing a long time ago. You know, before I got started into real singing, I used to be a folk singer. And I sure did enjoy myself. As a matter of fact, on several occasions I thought I'd just pick out my guitar again and go back to the folk singing because it's a whole lot more fun for me. Anyway, when you're down in there, an old cowpoke went riding out one dark and windy day. They're down in there instead of day, where it gets hollow. Give that a try. There's a lot more of that going on.
Circle that. Old cowboy will ride down one dark and windy day. On the ridge he rested as he went along his way. Walked on around the corner that he seemed all right his own. Left out on the bank, come on, we'll run and go.
That's already 300% better. Much clearer. Now, how about putting your microphone down on your chin instead of right in front of your mouth so that it doesn't cause overblow? And think about trying to confine the sound to that space of your face right there instead of having it be spread out so far that you feel all the vibrations from there. See if you can confine it there a little bit more. In other words, you don't work so hard. You try to intensify it down a little bit, even more than what you're doing right now.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Circle it. The old cowboys went right round one night on the day. Paul rode as he went along his way. Walked all around the corner, then he ceased all round her own. Left out a man, come on, we'll around and go. Yippee-I-oh. Those Otto and Tom and Mary. Ghost riders in the sky.
You go back and, without the record, just sing Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Ghost riders in
Now, can you take the hollowness out of Ghost Riders in the Sky?
Ghost riders in the sky.
Already better. As soon as you allow your voice to get hollow, then it's going to be hard to hear. As long as you keep an intensity in the center of the tone, then you're going to be in great shape, and you won't have to work as hard at that. Now that is a really nice, warm, friendly voice to listen to, and when it's projected out in such a way that it can be heard, I'd want to listen to that all night long. That's very, very good. Very good. Yeah.
Larry Cole. Then Helen Koviets will be after Larry. Larry is from Indiana.
I feel better all over more than anywhere else when I'm dancing with you. You walk around the corner, each all your own. Left out a man, come on and we do it. Got winding and out around, and when you meet your mate, bring your lady round and all will promenade. And I feel better all over more than anywhere else when I'm dancing with you.
Okay, Larry, you have a tendency to want to sing sharp, and it's not because you don't hear the correct pitch, but my guess is that because are you excited right now? Yeah, your adrenaline gets pumping, and what happens is that your mind, it thinks a pitch, sends a signal down to your vocal cords and to all the muscles that are involved in it, but the muscles are already hyped up, so they give about 110%, and you think you're going to hit the trajectory for that note, and you overshoot it by about 10%. The thing that you can do about that when that happens is just lay back. I haven't talked too much about how to control tightness in your breathing other than those few things that I've said, about deep breathing. But this time I'm going to punch you right in the stomach, sort of. I'm going to hold my hand against your stomach, and I want you to push out against my hand while you're singing. In other words, I want to slow down that process of letting the air go out. I think you're sending too much air, which is causing a lot of resistance in your vocal cords. Let's try it again. There's really nothing wrong with the sounds that you're making. It's very good. It's just above pitch. Relax as much as you can.
I feel better all over more than anywhere else when I'm dancing with you.
You weren't supposed to laugh at that because you didn't get to hear what he was doing.
If Cal Golden were here, he'd say, "Do you believe, brother?"
It's called the laying on of hands. Let's try it again.
Put your hands in the air, we're going to go.
Really push out against my hand.
I feel better all over more than anywhere else when I'm dancing with you. You walk around the corner, each all your own. Left out a man, come on and we do it. Got winding and out around, and when you meet your mate, bring your lady
just wanted to say real quick, I wanted to get on the first half, but now I'm glad that I didn't, because I feel much more comfortable with this John than I would have the other John.
I'm not going to let you go yet.
Now I'm not so comfortable.
That was already so much better. There was one time, though, that you're still wanting to shoot sharp. And that I want you to go back and do a free tone for me to relax as much as you can your vocal cords. What's happening is that the signal that your brain is sending to what the right pitch is getting interrupted by some other signals, and the muscles aren't reproducing the pitch that it's supposed to, not because you don't hear it, but because you've got other things happening, some extra effort going on. So can you try one of those free tones for me? It's, now you're pushing on that too hard. When you push on it too hard, it does sound awful lewd, doesn't it? But if you just relax it, it sounds nice and relaxed. Just loosen it. There you go, there you go. Don't push on it, don't push on it. Don't try to make it happen. Just let it fall back in there. Now, see if you can sing. Turn that sound over into a singing sound now. It's close, but keep it. You just have to bleed over into a singing sound. That's right. Now it gets a little breathy, doesn't it? Try to keep that grittiness in it all the way through. You laugh, but this is not an easy thing for some people to do. It's a very difficult thing, especially if they've carried for many years tension in their vocal cords. Right. You can't push your way into it, can you? It just won't go. You just have to, like you're going to burp. Now try to make that a little more intense sound. That way. All right, with that kind of loose, easy rattling that's going on in your throat, see if you can now sing. You go higher, it's not going to be as the easiest thing to do, but just try to remember what that felt like. Might have thought all of those years that he just couldn't sing in tune, that he had a tin ear. Or other people might have thought that Larry had a tin ear. It has nothing to do with it. There's almost nobody in the whole world who has a tin ear, who's tone deaf. The only people who are tone deaf are people who can't distinguish the difference between high and low pitches. Everybody else who can distinguish them probably will be able to reproduce them. And if they cannot do it, it's just simply because they haven't tried. It's a lot like shooting the basketball. Larry can reproduce those pitches, and as soon as he took care of that little extra tension in there, what his ear was telling him to sing, he was actually able to reproduce. Now, it's going to take a little while for you to get used to that feeling. You lost some of the intensity in it because you were concentrating on so hard on what I've asked you to do.
Well, he sure catches on quick.
Now I understand why so many people enjoy CALLERLAB.
One time. that's too slow, and that lowers the tone, and God knows it's low enough
I'm
anyway.
glad that somebody finally got around to doing this. I found out when I was doing this down in Texas that you have these fancy little machines here that can modulate your speed in order to raise or lower pitch. And those, within certain limitations, are very valuable. But let me just, will it hurt anything if I fuss with that thing while the record's on?
No.
All right.
I don't know what it'll do.
I don't want you to sing right now.
Oh.
Might break a rhythm if I change the speeds there. What I want you to do is I want you to concentrate on what happens to the basic pulse of the music as I fuss with this little lever here. Now that's a danceable rhythm. Nice, quick step walk. Now we really haven't slowed it down very much. There's no way that a person is going to be able to quick step that. That's not very much higher than where we were to begin with. Now, if I was a dancer, I'd be pretty pooped out by the time this song was over at that speed. So, that being the case, let me offer an alternative. Let's go back now, and before I ask you to sing, I want you to sing those low notes. Right now. Can you?
No, not without music.
Okay. We'll sing along, and as soon as we hit those spots, I'm going to take the record off, and then we'll fuss around with those low notes for a second. Because most people think that when you've got low notes, you have to push it down in your throat to get it, and that actually causes it to be more difficult. If you want to sing a low note, you take more and more pressure off of it, and you sing it like it's a high note. Down there, down there, down there. I don't feel any of that pressure going on in my throat. But if I were to try to swallow the tone, so to speak, down there, down there, down there, down there, that just doesn't work. Because I'm putting too much pressure with my tongue. I'm using the base of my tongue to push down on my larynx to make an artificially produced sound, and it gets real hollow. But when I just leave my vocal cords to do the job, then I can hit the lowest notes that are possible for me and not have to strain at it. And that's what I'm going to try to get you to do when we're all finished. Much more enjoyable rendezvous that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
It's easier.
We've got to quit meeting like this, you know?
The heck with this. How about later?
Rough. When you go down toward that low note, rendezvous, that's where the pitch really is, but it's much slower feeling for you. Rendezvous. If you could sing instead of rendezvous, sing rendezvous. Very small space inside your mouth.
Rendezvous.
Maybe I'm in the wrong place. Heck, let's start this thing again. Now just...
I was thinking how I'd love to get you alone for an hour. Let down in the corner, do-sa-do, you're own. Then start to the left, one time. Turn your partner right. Let down and swing your own and promenade. While I was making
was doing was putting my finger on the bridge of her nose as a reminder to her, but it was also a means of me telling what she was doing. If you get the sound placed up in the mask where it belongs, the bridge of your nose will continue to vibrate. And if it stops vibrating, you can count on the fact that no matter what else it feels like, it isn't in the right place. Now, if it's vibrating on the bridge of your nose, you've got a good chance of being right. Now, if you get real paranoid about singing in your nose, there's a way to test. Sing like you're singing in your nose as intensely as you can. I'm going to demonstrate. You don't have to do this. If I pinch my nostrils and it changes the quality of the pitch, then it's a nasal tone. But if I sing, if I don't change the tone by pinching my nostrils, then it's not too nasal. You can get all sorts of vibrations in your nose, think that you're singing too nasally, and it won't be true. But if you pinch your nose and it comes out nasal, then it's in your nose. And that's an easy way to test. Just kind of pinch your nose and keep singing until it doesn't pinch anymore. All right, who have we got?
We got Lois Wolfson from Pennsylvania. Lois?
Well, hold on a minute. After attacking our intelligence the way you did, you just wait and see if we quack for you anymore. No. And another thing, every evening I call my husband and tell him the activities of the day, and I'm with Helen. If I have to tell him my stomach was critiqued, I'm going to be in trouble. Okay.
Wait, before you put
This is for the men. A love song for the men.
Last week I had a talent show that I adjudicated, and they had a belly dancer on the program, and I tried to do this same thing with her, but they wouldn't let me. Good, but there is something that you do especially well that I wish you'd do all of the time. I wish I knew the words to the songs. No, I'm not going to turn it off. No, we're going to do this again. I think it begins right about in there. So let's sing it again. Huh?
Curlicue?
Yeah. When you go on up the scale a little bit and do a higher range. I want you to sing it again, and I want you to memorize what that feels like. And then I'm going to get you... Well, I want you to sing the whole thing, but when you get to the point of curlicue, I want you to go ahead and memorize what that feels like, and as soon as you got it, then we'll go back to the beginning and have you do it there.
Do you want to see if he's really professional? This room has been filled, and I want to ask him something. Do you know what I had to do on this song? Could you tell?
No.
Really?
No.
Is the man who wrote it out there? Well, we women have real problems, even though we have low voices, because the records are written by men, and I am harmonizing all the way on this. I cannot sing the melody. Did you notice that? I hope it doesn't bother you.
I didn't know the melody. It sounded pretty good to me.
It's just too low.
Sounds good. No, whatever works.
Circle it. Today I started loving you again. Left Alamando, the men's store left now. You curlicue boys run, Alamanda promenade.
Now, what does that feel like?
I like it.
Now, can you do the same thing with that clearly in your mind? Can you do the same thing at the beginning? Even though it's low, can you put it in the same place that you did?
Okay.
Give it a try.
Today I
on the promenade. Because today I started loving you again. I don't know if I did it or
That
not.
really did a great thing, because now, when you first started singing, you combined the richness of your voice, which is very, very prominent, very lovely. But instead of keeping it so rich and fat and round inside it, you put a little bit of a point on it.
Okay.
And it's the same thing that you did when you went up into the word run.
Yeah.
You do that naturally because the pitch gets higher. But when you get down into the lower range, you get a little bit lazy and you just sort of let it rattle around where it will. But if you can keep that intensity right all the way through, then it really took on a quality. I was trying to think. It's a quality similar to Helen Redding's voice. Very, very nice and attractive. And again, you notice that the things that we're doing to solve these little problems are really not very big deals. It's not anything that it takes 25 years to learn how to do. It just is something that's really very simple to do. Singing, what's hard to do is to put up with critiques.
Ronnie Woods. And after Ronnie will be Christine Marion, just so you can know what sequence you're coming in. From Amarillo, Texas, Mr. Ronnie Woods.
Circle left, we've been up, we've been down, honey, we've been around, but we keep on keeping on. Left Allemande and now come back into the condo. Left Allemande, that corner with the ring. You've got a smile, no side promenader on home. Oh no, there ain't no doubt when you sort it all out. It's too good to throw away.
That was fantastic. That's the widest range that I've heard so far today, I think. And you were able to negotiate every one of the pitches. But I couldn't understand your words. Remember, we were talking earlier today about the getting the phonation going and the resonation going, and then you have to have articulation. And your articulation is such that I don't hear the words. The purpose of the articulation is to put consonants on so that they can be understood. And the saying of the words requires every bit of intensity that it takes to just sing the tone. And there needs to be more than tone. And you had beautiful tone, nice, fluid sound. Nice, fluid sound. But there needs to be more words. So this time as you go through it, concentrate on saying it so that a dumb person like me who hasn't had any experience dancing can still figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do. I hate to be the last one lagging around the square, you know, and it helps if we got a caller to help.
Circle left, we've been up, we've been down, honey, we've been around, but we keep on keeping on. Left Allemande and now come back and double condo. Left Allemande, that corner with the ring. You got a smile, if it kills you. No side, no promenader on home. Oh no, there ain't no doubt when you sort it all out. It's too good to throw away.
I could understand you that time. Now, before I let you go, I want you to give me some fritone here. I want to give a free tone because what's happening, one of the things that makes women singers hard to understand, women callers, is if they sing in their head voice. The same thing can be true of men if they spend most of their time in the head voice because you get a lot of mellifluous sounds up through the mask, up through there, and you don't get a whole lot of sounds coming out of the throat to balance that, and that's happening here a little bit. And so when I said it was articulation, that's only partly true. The rest of it is that the rest of it is to make sure that your throat's nice, easy, and relaxed. Can you give me a try on that? Now, can you let that bleed over into a singing sound? Like this. You can hear how it changes. It doesn't stay constant. Try to keep that looseness that you're getting, that rattling feeling, and say an ah. Ah. That doesn't have the same feeling to it, though, does it? You're getting there. That was closer. Try it. What I'm after is a little bit more of intensity coming out of your throat. That's right. That's right. Now try the song with that sort of loose rattling feeling in your throat and see what it does. I'll bet you that if you're able to maintain that, it will not only make it easier to understand you, but it will actually make it easier for you to sing that high note on Smile.
Try it again.
Circle left, we've been up, we've been down, honey, we've been around. We lost it, but we keep on.
Let's start it up again. Give me a fry tone just before I put the song on. Okay, now keep that loose rattling feeling in your throat while you're singing.
Circle left, we've been up, we've been down, honey, we've been around. But we keep on keeping on. Left Alabama, now come back and does the shadow. Left Alabama, that corner we buried. You got a smile that kills you. No shadow promenader on home, although there ain't no doubt of when you sort it all out. It's too good to throw away.
Now that only did half of what I wanted it to do. Wasn't it much more enjoyable to listen to him in the lower part of his voice? Sound more relaxed? Didn't sound like he was whining at you quite so much. It didn't help on the high note. Not yet anyway, and that's what we're going to work on right now. What I need you to do now is to do that, keep that loose rattling feeling while you're quacking.
Any place but here.
No, the place that you put it when you quack or anything like that is very much high on the bridge of the nose. And when you go up high for your high note, instead of going right directly for that spot, you kind of want to go up and around and behind, and it gets lost somewhere up and around instead of getting right where it needed to. So if you can get that feeling of vibration in your throat and that feeling of buzz right on the bridge of your nose, those two things, and forget about everything that's in between, you should lose track, at least to a certain degree, of whether the pitch is high or low. It just sung. They're all in the same place. And try to divorce that sense of high notes are strange and low notes are easy. Give that a try, would you? Try tone. He's getting really good at this.
Circle left, we've been up, we've been down, honey, we've been around, but we keep on keeping on. Left Alabama, now come back and do the shadow. Left Alabama, that corner we buried. You've got a smile that kills you. No shadow promenader on home, oh no, there ain't no doubt that when you sort it all out, it's too good to throw away.
That's just right.
Christine? After Christine will be John Metcalf. Christine's one of the local callers here right in Missouri.
Kansas. Kansas City.
Old lady sings those pretty songs that ring. Darn right back home, Dixie down to an Alabama bar. Boys catch them, left and the boys back in, back down that line. Left and west, left Alabama, now we drink so fine. Hey, I saw the light, Lord, I saw the light. Those Sado and you promenade tonight. Now I'm so happy, no sorrows inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light.
That's fantastic. Christine, that's really terrific. You notice that when she started to go down into the low voice, and she's got a low voice to begin with,
It didn't sound heavy. Didn't sound ponderous or swallowed or anything. It just slipped right on easy down there because you were singing the way you should. I couldn't understand your words, and not because you didn't say them right, but because it was overblowing into the microphone. Why don't you just try it again and put it down here, and so that the mic just serves as a helpmate, not as a hindrance. Just kind of leave it.
Can I hold it steady?
I don't know if you can. Can you hold it steady? I don't know. Just kind of leave it right like that.
Okay.
Four ladies sing, go straight across that ring. Dawn up right back home, Dixie south to an Alamandar. Catch them left and the boys back in, back it down that line. Look what's left Alamand, now weave the ring so fine. Hey, I saw the light, Lord, I saw the light. No side of land, you promenade tonight. Now I'm so happy, no sorrows inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light.
That's great. Thank you very much. Good thing.
John Metcalf. Is John Metcalf here? After John will be Buddy Weaver, and if we have time, Tim Mariner. From Springfield, Missouri, John Metcalf.
Before we came up, John said, you got to work with me on my breathing. And can you hear that? Can you hear the shortness of breath? It isn't shortness of breath at all. It's partially nerves. But I want you to, I'm going to put my hand here on his stomach so that I can accentuate, so that some of you can see this. Would you start singing again? What I want, you're going to need to turn this way because you got your mic to go on the other way. What I want you to notice is what happens when he takes his breath and starts to sing. You'll notice that this whole middle thing does a great big tuck. It goes like this. You know, he really starts to kick that into being.
I got quite a bit of a tuck too.
If a person does that, you need to think of your diaphragm and your abdominal muscles somewhat like a billows that blows on a fire. Think what happens if you squeeze that billow already halfway. You've effectively lost half of your breath control. Not that the breath isn't in there, it's just that you've lost the ability to squeeze it out, so to speak. So one of the things that you need to really do your very level best about is to not push in right when you first attack the tone. In order to be able to attack the tone, you just start it. I'm going to put my hands right here, and I want you to go, wait, not the record yet. Put your hands right here on me. Feel much happening?
Nothing's happening.
Nothing much. I tried. Anyway, I want you to try to do the same thing. Not a great big kick to get it started. Just That's more like it. Try it again. Now, does that feel differently in this part of your throat, the vocal cords, than you're accustomed to feeling it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Does it feel at all different?
I don't feel like I had was using as much pressure there.
You weren't exactly. Did you all hear what he said? He didn't feel like he was using as much pressure. And that's exactly right. The less pressure you use, the better off you'll be. What you want to do is produce a very simple, easy phonation, but then once it's phonated, you want to intensify it through the resonation up here. You want to let all the sounds not get lost out through your ears or up through your head, but right out through the mouth and the nose. Sing it way tight, right up in the front.
Record again.
Yeah. And just try to keep quiet right here.
Four ladies tango, three-quarters. You roll away, circle round. We belong to each other.
Okay. When you strike a key on a piano, it goes ding. In other words, it decays real fast. That's what's happening to you each time you sing your phrase. You start out singing pretty good, and by the time you got to the end, you backed it away entirely. Can you sing all the way through to the very end of each line? Sing the first line for me. Can you?
Four ladies tango, three-quarter.
Can you sing it? Four ladies. I can't remember the melody.
Four ladies tango, three-quarter.
Now, that's very good. Can you sing four ladies tango, three-quarters, and sing all the way through that line with equal breath pressure all the way?
Four ladies tango, three-quarter.
Now, the next one.
You roll away and circle left.
You go away, circle left. Circle left. Go ahead and sing it. You roll away.
You roll away and circle left.
Right. Now go on to the next one.
We belong to each other.
And the next one.
Left Allen and weave the ring.
Left Allen and weave the ring, or whatever the notes are. But just make sure that your vocal cords don't come apart in the middle of that. That there's a sound going consistently all the way through.
Four ladies tango, three-quarter. You roll away, circle left. We belong to each other. Let's Allen and weave the ring.
Isn't that fantastic? Does that take more or less energy to do it that way?
It seemed easy, except for trying to concentrate the members.
Physically, it's easier. Mentally, it's much more difficult because you're just trying to break a habit. Okay, that's exactly what you need to do, is just keep the voice intensity running all the way through. Once you get the voice going and consistently and not let the vocal cords come apart, it's a very attractive sound for what you're trying to do. Very good.
You know, it's really not a breath problem at all.
Thank you, John. Buddy Weaver. I think Buddy will be the last one, and then we'll let Arden have a few. We'll try to get Tim in, too. Get Tim up here if you would. Buddy Weaver.
Well, I guess we're hanging loose. Here we go.
Circle left. Shadows. I'm here waiting in the shadows. West Allen man, you know. No Sodom. West Allen man, weave the ring and go. I know someday you'll come to me. No sorrow and promenade around you see. Till you do, I'll wait for you in the shadows of love.
Okay, everybody's getting to know that we go through the first phrase of the song and then we critique. You really did a wonderful job once you got up into the upper range. It's the same story we've heard earlier today, that you love those low notes and so you hold on to them yourself. That really doesn't impress anybody. And I'm being real blunt, that's why men singers do it. They think, macho, you know. That somehow, by being able to sing those low notes and let them vibrate, that's somehow going to put hair on their chest or something, and it isn't so. The main problem is that the other people just can't hear it so well. When you get, I know, then it's really in place and it's working good for you. But down there, it's kind of swallowed away. So would you sing that one more time and try to keep that consistent quality throughout? Chew on it. Yeah. Put it right up in the front of your mouth.
Circle left. Shadows, shadows. I'm here waiting in the shadows, shadows.
Shadows, shadows, shadows. Sing all the way through it. On Till You Do. It didn't do the same. Till you do. It didn't stay in the same place, did it? It went till you do, and it kind of got a little hollow on you. Try it again and make sure that you keep that steady place, and this will be the last one we'll go through.
Circle left. Shadow. I'm here waiting in the shadows, shadows. Left island man, you know, no sorrow. Left island man, weave the ring and go. I know someday you'll come to me, do it sorrow and promenade around you. See, till you do, I will wait for you in the shadows of love.
Is that nice?
Okay, we got one more who signed up, and our last one, Tim Mariner.
All righty, thank you. Motivation. Circle left. Through the night. He's good. I want a girl to call my own. I want a dream lover so I don't have to dream alone.
Isn't that fortunate that the last person who's up I don't have to do anything to? That's very good. For the style of music that you're singing, that's just exactly right. There's a lot of presence in the sound. It's relaxed. It's pleasant to listen to. It's not pushy. It's very good. Very good indeed.
Thank you. Nice call. We asked Arden if he would critique all these people, and we've tried to save enough time for him to do a little singing for you. So give him some encouragement.
Well, you know, I've been up here critiquing everybody else, and it's kind of dangerous to be the last one on the program. But what's even worse, my stomach's just been sort of tied up in a knot because you have no idea how hard it is to think of another song while you got songs on, you know, and I've been thinking, well, I don't think I know any songs. There are a whole bunch of songs that I can remember the first phrase to. I'm not sure I'll finish all of them, but let me see what I can do. Colored
folk work on the Mississippi. Colored folk work while the white folk play. Pullin' them boats from the dawn till sunset. Getting no rest till the judgment day. You don't look up, you don't look down, you don't just make the white boss frown. Tote that barge. No, whoops, what's that? No, that's not the right one. You don't make the white boss frown. Bend your knees and bow your head and pull that rope until you're dead. Let me go away from the Mississippi. Let me go away from the white man boss. Show me that stream called the River Jordan. That's the old stream that I longs to cross. I'm in trouble. Oh. That's too low. Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something, but don't say nothing. He just keeps rolling, he keeps on rolling along. He don't plant taters, he don't plant cotton, and them that plants them am soon forgotten. But old man River, he just keep rolling along. You and me, we sweat and strain, our bodies all aching and racked with pain. Tote that barge, lift that pail, you get a little drunk and you land in jail. I get weary and sick of trying. I'm tired of living and scared of dying. But old man River, he just keep rolling along.
I want to say that it has been a real pleasure for me to work with you folks because of your congeniality, your desire to know, your friendliness, and just the easiness about you. As you go to your work, your responsibility is to reach out to the people that you call for and help them have a good time. All of us, no matter what medium that we work in, have the responsibility to give the people their money's worth. And when I say that, I don't mean dollars and cents. I mean give them the opportunity to have a good time. And if you do that, if they sense your commitment, your willingness to take charge, your willingness to make sure that it's a good time, then they will have a good time and they'll invite you back. I hope you'll all do that, and that these things that we've done today will mean something to you.
I'm sure I speak for all of the members of CALLERLAB. I know I speak for the board when I say, Arden, thank you so much for sharing your talents with us. And I'm sure that if the new executive committee or in one of our conventions in the future, he's done such an outstanding job today that we'd like to have him back. Okay, dinner will be at 6:40 to open up, gangs. Don't forget your badges. Thank you very much.